today on Enjoying Your Blended Family, we are talking about parenting fails.
Ooh, that doesn't sound fun.
It doesn't. But if you've got to a place where you can actually embrace your fails, you're on another level.
Another level.
Another level of your blended family journey when you can step outside of the insecurity, because I'm speaking to myself here, and actually see these things for what they are. And it's not you're a horrible person and you suck. It's here's an opportunity for me to learn and do better. So.
That's true. For me personally, I was the perfect parent. And
I was wondering if you were going to not have anything to say on this one.
And it's like, I don't need any help at all. I am crushing this parenting thing.
High five.
And yeah, high five.
Nope.
But isn't it crazy at how our thoughts can get that way? And we just think, it's not me, it's them. And, me being that perfectionist, I really struggled with that. Thinking, man, everybody else is just crazy. And it wasn't until I was able to do some self-reflection and say, you know what? None of us are perfect. We can all get better. We can all grow. So yeah, very important topic is us learning from our failures. So there's power in that.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Get ready. Today's topic is powerful.
Gonna be good.
All right. So parenting fails.
Yeah.
Like, whenever I think of it seriously, is I think of Thomas Edison and when he said, you know what, I failed. And I forget the right numbers. You can look at the quote, you can Google it. But I think he said, I failed 1,000 times. But it took 1,000 times for him to create the light bulb. It wasn't that he failed 1,000 times. He just learned 1,000 times how not to create a light bulb. And, and like I said, I probably misquoted that, but, the heart of it is so true that we learn from our mistakes. And whenever we know that, man, how much more better effective parents can we be whenever we do take a time to just kind of self-reflect and say, okay, what could I have done better in that situation? Or what could I do better moving forward?
Yeah, and for me, I always saw failure just in a lack of self-confidence for myself. I always saw failure as just a real shot at like who I was as a person, who I was as a mother, as a human being, as a wife. So anytime I messed up, I took it so personal that I was a mess up. And I mean, it wasn't until some deep self-reflection, and really like what we talk about in a lot of these is when all of our kids moved off and I had a lot of time to self-reflect, and I went to counseling and just learning some things to realize that failure is not a bad thing. But I projected that even onto my kids. Part of my parenting failure is that I didn't want them to fail either, because if they failed, I thought it was a reflection of me as a mother. And so then I was also still failing. And so I would swoop in and not let them fail because I didn't want them to fall. I didn't want them to crash. But it wasn't until all of that came about and I had to do the self-reflection that those are the opportunities when you can pick yourself back up, dust yourself off, and try something different, do something different, learn from it. And as long as you're learning from your mistakes, it's not a failure. You're just learning how to do things new.
Yeah, and as a husband, a father, as a guy, it's easy for us to get into the my way or highway syndrome. Should I say it that way? Because we do feel, we try to be the head of the house and we feel like, my way is the right way and you don't know anything, especially as, when you're speaking with kids and we can come across whenever we do that, we put on so much added pressure on our marriage, on our parenting, on our kids, our biological kids, our step kids. And that can really hurt our family more than help them. Especially when we look at the Bible, the Bible tells us, especially as husbands, that we're supposed to help be that encouragement for our kids. We're supposed to be the teachers. We're supposed to be the ones encouraging and lifting up, and not the dictators, not the is this way or that way, but it's actually getting in the trenches and guiding them. in a sense. And I know as guys, we can take that out of context so easy. And it's like, no, do this. Oh, you didn't do that? Well, golly, you know, and you sit there and really start coming down on them and squashing their self-esteem, squashing your kids, and then really being that over your wife as well, putting that added pressure on her, when as a blended family we're already trying to relieve that pressure, not add to it. So just for a guy, being able to self-reflect is powerful, and that's something I didn't get initially until years, we dove into this, said, we're going to make this work. And then we started learning, especially me, saying, I can get better each and every day. And it is looking at some of the things that I just did wrong. I just messed up, and I call it for what it is, and I learn and move
And moving
forward.
past the pride in it, I think that's the thing that makes, when we fail, it brings that shame on. And so we want to keep it a secret, and keep others from knowing, because we don't want to look bad. It's that pride inside of us. No, I am. Especially for me, being in a blended family, and us having ex-spouses, and me failing could potentially mean me losing my children, or you losing your child. Like if I'm
They
not
want to pick
doing
the other side,
a good enough job, being a good enough mom, not even them picking, but the court system coming in and saying you're not doing what you should be doing. And so I don't think I purposely tried to, but I needed myself to be better than my ex. And I needed to be better than his ex, because I wanted to prove that we were the best place for the kids, because I didn't want them to leave.
Well, and the problem comes in as we're doing that. Now we're parenting out of fear, and your exes are probably doing the same thing, because they don't want their children to leave either. And so now you got this pull, and unfortunately the kids get stuck right in the middle of it, and they're getting pulled from one way to the next. And we live in a time now of social media being at some of its strongest, its height that it's ever been at before. And everyone's posting mostly their wins. They're posting their highlights. And as we're making that a way of life, to where we're on social media a lot more than we used to be, we're seeing everyone's highlights. So now not only are we looking at our failures or trying to be the best we can just for our family or for our exes, but now we're trying to meet up with the Joneses. We're trying to be comparable to them.
Be this Pinterest mom. We're over here just barely surviving, but yet we're trying to make it look as if we've got our crap together, and that we can do all the same things you see on the Pinterest type styles.
But
and it's like,
in reality, everyone else, they're just showing that little highlight, and the rest of their life is they're struggling just as we are. We're all human, and we go through that. It's kind of one of those, and I don't think anyone does it intentionally, or a lot of people don't, but the truth is we want to show those proud moments, the ones that we succeeded on and we won at. We don't want to show all the nasty stuff, and those are the things we're not proud of. And it's like we don't want that on display. And so that's where social media really has that adverse effect on us as a family, and as trying to build a blended family and create that unity and peace.
Yeah, I remember when in our previous life, before we started this journey, we were pastors for a couple of years, and
at a church,
and I was sharing our story of the kids leaving and just how God really met me in that time frame. And afterwards, I had a mom come up to me that we didn't know each other on a real personal level, but she had me on social media. And she's like, I would have never guessed that that's what your family is going through from Facebook. Like, I thought y'all, everything was great. And that's just how it is like you don't show all of those vulnerable moments that are happening in your household. And so people don't know, and then they compare their life to those, thinking, oh, you got it all together, you got the perfect life. When in reality, we all got our own different struggles.
It's almost like the magazine syndrome. We look at the magazine and the pretty pictures and the beautiful house and the beautiful places to go to, and we think that's got to be our everyday life, when in reality that's not the truth. That can't it can't be that way. And so it's really us just getting back to the basics and getting raw and saying, you know what, none of us are perfect. No family is perfect. No family will ever be perfect. All we can do is we can get a little better each and every day. And how we do that is we do learn from our failures. We learn from, like what you're doing now. You're adding value and resources through a podcast, through a YouTube. We do it through reading. We do it through many different ways, but you're being intentional on saying, I want to just get a little better each and every day for my family.
Yeah.
I want to get better for me. I want to get better so I can be a better dad, a better wife, a better parent. That because my family needs me, and really, I want us to be as good as we can, right? Given all of our family dynamics, our different personalities, and everything that goes into a family. So it's very powerful to step back and say, you know what? Learning from our mistakes, our parenting fails are powerful. So let's dive into that.
Yeah, and so this whole parenting fails is kind of funny because this started out when we first started into this venture. We were doing Thursday night lives on Facebook, and so Rendell and I were going live every Thursday at 5:00, and we had done it for several weeks together. And then one Thursday night, he got caught up at Target talking with someone, and I had texted him, "You coming? You gonna make it?" And he's like, "Oh, sorry, I don't even think you answered at first, right?"
Yeah, no, I was in the middle of a conversation, and actually the series we did it in was, the first one we did was Parenting Fails. The next one we did was Parenting Wins. So that was a great live. We're going to put that live in for next week because it's powerful. So we don't want you to miss that. But today we're talking about Parenting Fail. So I kind of share the story a little bit next week on that. But yeah, I didn't answer immediately.
And so I went live.
She thought, I got this.
I told him, don't worry about it, honey. Just don't stress. I got this one. And I had texted my daughter. I texted both the daughters earlier in the day and asked them a parenting fail of mine. And so only one of them had time to answer back. And so I was like, I'm going to go live and I'm going to talk about this. And I went live and I talked about it. And it was such a good, powerful message.
Like 15, 20-minute talk, good stuff.
Oh, good stuff that no one will ever hear. Because we went on the next week, he still didn't say anything. I didn't do, I never went back and listened to it. And then a few weeks later.
Yeah, a few weeks later, we got the podcast going because we really felt God placed on our hearts saying, you know what, we're doing these Facebook Lives in our group, but how much powerful is it that this message could reach so many more people? So it got put on our hearts, but we had so much good content and value in some of these other recordings. Mm-hmm. So I started downloading those. That way I could put them on podcast form and YouTube form. And I go to download the Parenting Fails with her talking, and I download it, and I go to get the audio and for the podcast, and I'm playing it, and there's nothing. Like her mouth is moving, and she's just passionate. You see it in her eyes, and she's just going at it. And there's nothing, no audio. And I sat there and said, well, maybe it's a download. And so I'm going and trying to retweet. But the only thing we can figure out is she didn't turn on the microphone. So she has like 15 to 20 minutes of great stuff that
it was so good, but no one will ever know. So I'm going to somewhat try to recreate it today, but I know it's not going to be the same because it didn't have the same passion and emotion that I had that day when it was fresh and raw. But man, and we laugh about it because one, it happens to be the Parenting Fails that I failed miserably, but I make fun of him all the time because he does this stupid mic check every time before we get started.
If you're into technology or recording, you got to check out, I'm just that type. I check out all the microphones and go through my whole checklist. That's just my personality too. And so
I always pick at him for that. And then the time he was not there that I thought I totally had it covered. There was no mic check because that's dumb. And there was no volume. And I thought for sure I could recover it, but it is lost in the world of no one will ever know. Sadly, no one told me, hey, you don't have any volume. Don't know what that means exactly, but
everybody's being polite.
They might have thought it was theirs on their end, and they would just come back later and try to figure it out.
So anyways, we have volume today.
So, Parenting Fails. That was more of a podcast fail.
So we want to share just from each of ours, and the power and the beauty in this is each one of us went back and asked our kids. We asked one of our kids. In fact, I asked my biological daughter, and she asked her biological daughter, and we just got it from them, because how important is it? Sometimes we don't realize what we're doing. Yeah. But when we ask our kids to say, hey, what could I do better at? Or is there anything I'm doing that is hurting you, or that you wish I didn't do? And just getting an honest, raw feedback can be powerful in itself, age depending, of course. If you're asking your 5-year-old, what's something that I could do better? More
candy!
More cookies! So, it's got to be age appropriate for sure. But there is power in that. They see things differently. And when we kind of step in their shoes and see it from their perspective, sometimes we can take it with a grain of salt, but sometimes it's very powerful. So that's kind of what we did. We asked, and I think we each had a parenting fail of what we thought, but we got so much more perspective just asking them.
Yeah, and so the way I did is I sent out a text, and I'd asked both girls, but again, the oldest, Big Riley, she was at work, and so she didn't respond, so I only got the one response. So that was what I was sharing the day that nobody ever heard. So I asked her, what if I were to ask you like something that was a parenting fail, something I did wrong, what would you say? And she answered pretty quickly, and she had told me...
Imagine that, I answered quickly.
Yeah.
Funny you should ask.
Yes, I've been waiting. And that is the funny thing, though, is, we all are screwed up because of our parents. I mean, right? They're to blame for everything.
And they're screwed up because they're parents and it goes on and on and on.
Yeah, it's a cycle. But really, everybody just wants to be acknowledged that there were mistakes made and that it's okay. Like, I think once you acknowledge that, you're able to move past it. But the more you try to, overcompensate and deny that it happened, that's what causes that resentment in there. So I asked her, and she had sent back really quick, maybe not letting us watch scary movies. And I was like, what? That's out of all the things that I didn't let you, I was like, that was actually a win.
Start pouring salt out, grain of salt.
And so I was like, oh, really? I was like, I thought you were going to say something about eating, how I would, make such a big deal out of what y'all ate. And she was like, oh, I thought it would be too much to say that you gave me an eating disorder, LOL. I was like, yeah, okay, it's a little harsher. But she has made that comment several times she's an 18-year-old right now. And she says it kind of in lightheartedness, but she does feel like she has issues eating. And one thing I took very serious in raising them was the food that I provided for them. One issue being that they were both Devin and Riley are both ADHD and given ADHD medicine. And the doctor told me, you need to feed them a very big breakfast. They're probably not going to eat lunch, but send it anyways. And they need to have a hearty dinner, a healthy dinner, and then snacks in between. Well, they wouldn't eat because they took this ADHD medicine that made them have zero appetite. And so I was always trying to force food on them, healthy, good food. And then my son had allergies. And so I would try to restrict food from him to try to help. And dinner time.
Yeah, it was a battle. Seriously, it was a battle every night, really.
And they would, as soon as we'd get in the car, they would ask, what's for dinner? And it's not because they were looking forward to it. They wanted to already complain about it for the moment. And so,
and they were very picky, they didn't just like everything, and as many kids are, they weren't very versatile in their foods, and so you would do a lot of just well-rounded meals, including the vegetables and things like that they didn't like, and especially being ADHD, they would fight it tooth and nail. That's just part of that dynamic. Is if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah,
and I'll fight you to the grave.
My son, not as much, but our youngest, she is definitely an Enneagram personality 8, if you know anything about the Enneagram, or what you would call a strong-willed child. So getting her to eat, there were times that she went there, one time in particular that we joke about now, that I took her to the bath because she was fixing to throw it all up because she refused to swallow the stinking meat.
You will swallow this food. She's like, mm-mm.
Oh man, I mean, there was a whole story with the tuna fish sandwich. I don't know if we told that one before, but I'm sure we have, where I carried it around for 3 meals. I would refrigerate it in between, but I would carry it from place to place, waiting that she was going to eat it. She was not going to have another meal.
You're not eating anything else.
And I'm telling you, I got this advice from parenting books. Like, there was one that said, if they won't eat dinner at your table, sit them outside. If they don't want to eat with the family, sit them outside. They don't get to eat with the family. And this was parenting advice, and I was just trying to do my best. So, and I'm here to admit on live camera for all of the world to hear that I messed up. that was a fail of mine, and it has caused her some issues with her eating habits now as an adult. But she's working on it. I'm working on it.
And we're moving past it together now.
Yes, and we're
not fighting each
laughing
other
about it now, and I don't force her. Well, I will say I tried to redeem myself. I won't go too much into the story because it's like a whole story in itself. But there's this like classic story of when I tried to make what was called Hawaiian chicken in a crock pot.
We'll be right back. Check this out. Blended families can be hard at times, can't they? Have you ever said, I don't feel like me and my spouse are connecting? Or I'm bending over backwards and my stepkid still pushes me away? Or do you feel like your family's doing okay, but you'd like it to be more than okay? You want your family to level up, take it to an even stronger level.
The truth is, we're all looking for more joy and happiness in our lives. So how do we start seeing that in our blended family? Because really, our family is the first place we should truly be enjoying and having the most fun with. So how do you enjoy your blended family? You create more fun opportunities that your family loves doing. These are big things, they're small things, things that cost money, things that don't cost money. But the more fun you have together, the less blended family drama you'll have, which equals more joy and happiness for everyone. Now, you may be saying, yeah, but I don't know how to do that. I don't even know where to start. That's okay. We walk you through 5 fun dates you get to have with your family. These dates help you discover those fun things your family loves doing. You'll walk away with so many more great ideas and have an amazing, easy plan to make it happen and to keep it going. Plus, you get to have a lot of fun discovering all this in the process. We walk you through everything and make it really fun and easy.
So how do you enjoy your blended family? By going on these 5 dates and discovering fun in your stepfamily. You'll be so glad you did. Have more fun together and you'll see less problems. The link to get started on this amazing journey is in the show notes of this episode.
And I was following this crock pot recipe and it turned out not great. The chicken absorbed the orange juice and was like orange on the inside. It was just a very strong flavor of sesame oil and
yeah, it's just some very strong taste. It's very savory. But the kids, oh man, it's a big blowout. I
took my daughter to the bathtub.
All 3 of them would not eat it. It looked different, and then it tasted strong, and it was so they still relive that and bring that back up from time to time. So yeah, So
I was recently going to redeem myself.
We actually had step parent.
Yeah, we were celebrating Step Parent Day.
National Step Parent Day. And this has been now 13 years later. We wanted a redemption. I told her, I said, you should like redo the Hawaiian chicken and make it really good. And yeah, it still turned out bad. So.
Yeah, I mean, all of the odds were against me anyways. A hurricane came through the night before.
It really did. It knocked our power out. And so I'm out there with one of those like turkey fryer burners, with a pot doing the rice with propane.
You did incredible on the rice. And I had already been cooking the Hawaiian chicken all day in the crock pot. So luckily by the time the power went out, it was still warm. And we sat down to eat it, and it was still gross.
I mean, I liked it, but I like a lot of things. So
yeah, it was the sesame oil. It was just way too strong, but I didn't redeem myself. And what's funny is I didn't tell my youngest what we were having. And she refused to come that night. She was saying because of the hurricane. Not refused like, I'm not coming. She was just like, I can't leave. She had found some squirrels in the hurricane. And she's like, I'm feeling anxious. I don't want to leave them. I can't come over. And then come to find out, she's the only one out of all of them that I was wanting to redeem myself mostly for. And she didn't taste it. I think somehow she knew.
We definitely think it was a sign. She knew. and there was a hurricane, knocked out our power. It's like everything was saying,
It
don't
wasn't
do
meant
it.
to be.
So, anyways.
Okay, that's enough for me and my failures. We need to make sure we have enough time on this podcast to talk about your failures.
Well, okay, yeah. So as I was saying, I was the perfect parent, and I had no
End scene.
I had no fails. So we can move on next.
We're still working on getting him to admit these things.
Now, actually, I'd asked Riley and asked her just recently. Said, what was one of my parenting fails? And she said
She didn't really hesitate too long either.
she didn't hesitate too long either. She kind of knew, but she had said not allowing her to make choices. So basically saying that I had these predetermined results I wanted them to accomplish, and I would set it out to where they had to hit it. And I wouldn't give them the options of trying to get to a certain destination or I say that, but whatever the task was at hand, I didn't allow them to fail or allow them to make their choices through it. And that was so true, and reflecting back, we did, we parented out of expectation most of the time, and we set the bar and said, this is what you've got to hit. And we kind of talked over the past years now that they're older, but they really, that hurt their self-esteem a lot, and they felt like they could never hit the mark.
Because if they did, we would raise the bar higher, because now, for us, we were doing it in a way, we know what they're capable of, so we're setting the bar here, and we just needed them to meet it. It wasn't even like, if you didn't meet it, blah, blah. Sometimes they may have got grounded or what have you if their grades weren't right and the room wasn't clean. But it's like as soon as they would hit it in this area, then we would just raise that bar just enough because we wanted them to grow and learn.
And that's how we parented for many, many years, is we set the expectations. It was the my way or the highway type mentality. And we were researching so many things, right? And we thought this was the best way to do it, when in reality what we learned through a lot of research and a lot of different sources is that you have to give them boundaries, of course. Like, you don't want them to stick their hand in a fire, right? But you want them to be able to make the choices to have those safe fails, if that makes sense. So they've got to have those safe fails so that they can learn. It's all, each one of us, we all have the choices in life, and if we go making the choice for our kids in everything, whenever they turn 18 and they go off to college, they don't know how to make choices. And so it's so much easier for them to make the wrong choices because they haven't learned from the beginning. We never set them up to be able to.
Well, and like what she said as well is like it gives her anxiety to have to choose something because she's afraid it might not be the right thing. So what we're trying to like unteach and like unlearn or whatever now at this point is to teach our kids like just pick something, and if it ends up being the wrong choice, pick something different,
learn from it. That's going to take you to the next thing. So that's just where we're at now. But looking back at how we did it, them growing up, we had those expectations, and what that did was that created more stress in the household. It created the anxiety, the lowered self-esteem, and it kind of pushed them away a lot in a sense too. It's
one thing that they would say about their other parent is that they loved them unconditionally. They didn't feel like they had to go there and perform, whereas in our house we had conditional love, and we didn't. But that's what they perceived from the way that we raised them. We loved them regardless, but we did have a very strong, narrow, this is right and this is wrong. This is what you need to do in order to be a good Christian, good human being.
Yeah, good in society. And so that was one thing that we did learn along the journey, and we got better towards the end, which we wish we would have done from the beginning. If we had started setting up the boundaries and created the soft failures for them as they're making choices, so much more would they be better at making that now in their older years. So powerful stuff, and there's plenty more failures we had. These were just two that we'd asked them, and they had just spit them out. And, there's so much truth to that. And now with us and our dynamics, we had custody of them. So they were with us the majority of the time. And that plays into the dynamics as well, as being a blended family. Because if you're just seeing your kids on the weekend, or every now and then, or you have visitations, you do parent a little differently because you don't have them all the time. So you are having to approach it a little different too. So that's a little bit different of a dynamic. So this was just ours and kind of what we had went through, but it can, definitely pour into any family dynamic.
Yeah.
So good stuff. But those are parenting fails. So just kind of wrapping up, we learn from our mistakes. Just the more we can admit our mistakes, the faster we recover from them. Instead of trying to always fit in and feel like we've got to, it's almost like we put the mold on ourselves. We look at social media and we look at all these areas and think that that's the bar, and we're trying to achieve it and we're always failing at it, and it lowers our self-esteem, right? Kind of like what we were talking about with Riley and her not making the choices. So we have these false expectations that we're trying to hit as parents that can really limit us or cause us to try to just overachieve and cause more problems in the household than we do solutions. So yeah, just really working on our failures. Once we admit it, once we see it, we can move past it, learn from it, and become better.
Failures aren't bad.
They're
if you
not
don't
bad.
learn anything else, it's that failures are not bad. They're opportunities for us to learn and do things differently.
No parent is perfect, and no parent ever will be perfect. We just learn and grow and love more and more each and every day, and that's how we do it. So good stuff.
Awesome. Yes, love it.
Awesome. So great talk. We will see you next time. Like I said, next week we're talking parenting wins, which is powerful too, and a lot of good stuff. So we will see you then. Later, guys.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope this episode has been a blessing and encouraged your family journey.
Make sure you stay connected with us and join our weekly Blended Family newsletter. We send an email out every Friday morning full of support and encouragement.
And when you join, we also want to give you a free gift. So go get yours today. The link is in the show notes below.
Have an amazing day. Remember to enjoy the journey with your blended family, and we'll see you on the next episode.